distinguished Minister Jae-hoon Kim, Forest Service, distinguished Vice Minister Yoon Cho, Minister of Foreign Affairs, distinguished Mr. Ban Ki-moon, President of GGI, but more importantly, my former boss, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to join you here today, and I would like first to start by congratulating the Korea Forest Service on the organization of the first ever Global Land Degradation Neutrality Forum. It is a testament to the importance they attach to land and forest. We certainly share a belief that if we care for the land and the forest will in turn care for and feed our people and underpin our collective well-being, with well-being understood in far more just economic terms. So today I would like to explore whether achieving land degradation neutrality by caring for our land and forest could also foster confidence, building and underpin our collective security and peace. I understand a phrase by Otto von Bismarck, the renowned German statesman, which has become quite well known in Korea in the last few months due to a series of historic summit meetings that have happened in the region. Bismarck said, "A statesman cannot create anything himself. He must wait and listen until he hears the steps of God sounding through heavens, then leap up and grasp the hem of his garment." There was a critical moment at the Panmunjom summit when Korean leaders planted a tree to symbolize peace and prosperity across the peninsula. But will it be enough for us to leap up and grasp the opportunity to act? We have known for a long time that land degradation destabilizes lives and livelihoods. Land degradation undermines the well-being of 2/5 of humanity, some 3.2 billion people. It is driving species extinction and intensifying climate change. It is also a major contributor to mass human migration and a root cause of increased competition and conflict over access to natural resources. And it is set to get worse. With a population racing towards 10 billion by 2050, we will need to provide more food and energy and access to water and jobs to meet our growing needs. Asia and Africa will be on the front lines of this exploding demand with ballooning populations. But meeting that demand is going to be especially tough when more than 50% of all agricultural land is already degraded. The amount of productive land available per person is already at critical levels, and each year millions of hectares of croplands are lost entirely due to soil erosion and land degradation. In South Asia alone, land degradation causes $10 billion in annual loss, while in the volatile West Asia region, 2/3 of the countries are below the water scarcity limit of 1,000 cubic meters per person per year. The region has already surpassed its natural capacity to meet its own food and water demand. While in Africa, competition for access to land has led to outright conflict in Darfur or around Lake Chad. Land issues readily lend themselves to conflict. Land is an important economic asset and source of livelihoods for up to 80% of the population in the majority of the countries of the world. It is also closely linked to community identity, history, and culture. Communities can therefore be easily mobilized and manipulated around the land. It is time to make the case that investing in land is a tool for peace building. Practical steps can prevent grievance from turning into violent conflict. With the right institutions and governance systems to manage land efficiently, equitably, and sustainably, all is possible. Indeed, the shared management of water, land, forest, wildlife, and protected area are frequently cited examples of environmental cooperation for peace building. The most famous example of environmental conservation as a way to mediate hostility between nations is the Cordillera Condo between Peru and Ecuador. In 1999, Ecuador established the El Condor Park, while Peru created an ecological protection zone and the Santiago Comeno Reserve Zone. These peace parks were established as mechanisms for bilateral cooperation. They were used to promote the social, cultural, and economic development of local community in both countries. In addition to helping to resolve a long-term territorial dispute between the two countries, the agreement initiated an important phase of bilateral diplomacy, cooperation, and commercial relations in the post-conflict phase. Yesterday, we heard here other inspiring stories about cross-border collaboration to reduce tensions and create confidence. I am thinking, for example, of the Pantanal wetland case. The clear lesson is where countries emerging from conflict have addressed land and water issues effectively, they have laid the foundation for a durable peace. Based on those experiences, you could imagine similar shared management of resources across Africa or Asia. It will need a bold vision and flexible governance arrangement, but I have no doubt it will facilitate cooperation between the countries involved. And in a global system striving to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the target of land degradation neutrality could have an important role to play in that regard. LDN is an accelerator for the achievement of many SDGs and for greater climate resilience, because it seeks to maintain or enhance the quality of all ecosystem services, optimizing trade-offs and applying an integrated land use planning principle that can cross traditional boundaries. A general strength of LDN is that it also emphasizes the importance of the human dimension, land users, stakeholder groups, and institutions in land use planning and development. As it is a participatory and inclusive process, it can be used to systematically address conflict as they arise between parties with diverging ambitions. Because from a peace-building perspective, whether or not these differences become a source of division and violent conflict, or an opportunity for positive change and growth, depends on how they are understood and addressed. The idea of land degradation neutrality was actually first floated at COP10 in Changwon in Korea in 2011. With the adoption of the UNCCD 2018-2030 strategic framework, LDN is now fully integrated in the work of UNCCD. Its country parties are encouraged to establish voluntary national LDN target and pursue implementation. Today, nearly 120 countries have committed to do so. As countries identify hotspots of land degradation as part of the target setting process, they are also seeing a clear correlation between degradation, migration, and conflict. And it has led to systematically attempts, especially in Africa, to address issues of sustainability, stability, and security. The 3S initiative in Africa is an actual attempt to manage the impact of land degradation and climate change in vulnerable hotspot areas by conserving, sustainably managing, and rehabilitating degraded land. 14 countries are part of this initiative and have committed to rehabilitate 10 million hectares of land and create 2 million jobs for migrants and ex-combatants. United Nations studies on the relationship between natural resources and disarmament, demobilization and reintegration have found that 50% of former combatants participating in reintegration program choose agriculture. In some cases, actually, the proportion was as high as 80% as their way back into their communities. It underlines the opportunities offered by LDN to focus on the rehabilitation of degraded land to first stabilize and then transform society. You would clearly have to see how and if this model would work in your region. Could you envisage rehabilitating land and forests in Korea together as a way to build long-term peace and cross-border understanding? Could a peace forest initiative emerge? I believe yes, as both Koreas are active parties to the UNCCD and can embrace LDN together on their journey towards permanent peace, security, and prosperity for all. Thank you for your attention.